Welcome to Health News and Views, a podcast dedicated to bringing some clarity to the health disparities in the Black and Brown communities. If you believe there's a connection between food, sickness, and health, then you're in the right place. Let's begin the process of unraveling the truth. And now your host, Lynn Pete.
Greetings and welcome to Health News and Views, Food, the Final Frontier. I'm your host, Lynn Pete, and thanks for stopping by. You know, the mission of Health News and Views and Food, the Final Frontier is to inform, educate, and disseminate our findings as they relate to health and nutrition. And we continue to look at current trends, breakthroughs, and the news. And our focus is especially for the Black and Brown community. That's because we have the most troubling positions of first and second place when it comes to negative health markers. Well, the focus of this episode has to do with the outcomes of our dietary addiction to processed and ultra-processed foods. And we are trending in a direction that will eventually manifest into ill health or even early death just because of our food choices. This is scary. But first, the subject matter provided on this podcast or any of our other published documents is for informational purposes only. Food, the Final Frontier, and our partner Health News and Views. We do not attempt to treat, diagnose, or cure any disease or condition. Always check with your healthcare provider before making any lifestyle, dietary, or prescription drug changes. And now, generally, our food choices, good or bad, will determine if we live to see the new job, a new promotion, a new home, birthdays, graduations, or even family outings. In the last week or so, I had some pretty troubling news that actually rattled my cage. In the news, there was a story about Corey Broadus. Corey Broadus is Snoop Dogg's 24-year-old, Snoop Dogg, the rapper. It's his 24-year-old daughter. She has a stroke. She wrote on her Instagram story a couple of days later that the stroke was severe, and she started to break down crying when she was told what happened. And she said later, "I'm only 24. What did I do in my past to deserve all of this?" Well, as troubling as that news is regarding Corey Broadus, and we wish her a speedy recovery, it was also indicated that because of her diagnosis of lupus when she was 6 years old, she is 4 to 8 times more likely to have a stroke than someone who does not have that pre-existing condition. I would like to report that Corey was an isolated case of stroke, but she's not. Stroke, cardiovascular disease, hypertension, and high blood pressure are on the rise among children, teens, and young adults like Corey. The CDC reports an estimated 1.3 million youth ages 12 to 19 would have high blood pressure according to their new guidelines. Or, in other words, they said 1 in 25 children. And they said if you looked in a classroom of 30 youth, one person would have hypertension and about 3 more would have elevated blood pressure. How does that happen? What else could it be but the food? So I checked out the American Heart Association and asked, do children really get hypertension? And their response was, yes, the pediatric hypertension is on the rise. Over the last 30 or 40 years, pediatric hypertension in the United States has increased 4-fold, currently up to 4.5%, or 3.34 million children in the United States have this condition. The reason for the increase in pediatric hypertension is not entirely clear, they stated. Many consider it to be due to the coincidence of obesity epidemic. Since 1980, they went on to say, the prevalence of obesity among children and adolescents has almost tripled. The American Heart Association said 32% of our children in the United States, that's 32%, maybe that's like 1 in 3, are now overweight or obese. Further, it went on to say that considering this group of at-risk children, the estimated proportion of children afflicted with hypertension is much greater, ranging from 20 to 47%. So if you ask a kid, what do you want for lunch? What do you think they're going to ask for? Pizza, number 1 in the list. Hamburgers, number 2. Hot dogs, number 3. Chicken nuggets, number 4. Chicken noodle soup, number 5. Spaghetti, grilled cheese. This is what they're eating. Somehow no broccoli, spinach, carrots, or grains here. Are we okay with these types of reports? These are our children and teens. Stress levels of children, especially in areas where I lived and worked. Obesity and overweight issues need to be addressed. And my own nephew is in this category. And it pains me to see and know what his future health markers will be without significant oversight and change. Equally troubling is that the average person has no idea how we develop chronic diseases or what risk factors contribute to good or bad outcomes. Well, a diet such as the one I just mentioned, that is the cornerstone of my nephew's eating habits, all of his food, as I said to him last week, is tan or beige. I said, there's no greens, there's no yellows, there's no reds. I almost said blues, and he kind of nailed me on that. But anyway, I said, how about purple? He said, eggplant. So anyway, while we're joking about it a little bit, this is critical. Why is this so important? You can't fix or maintain something if you don't know how it works. It's like anything else. How do you operate a nuclear reactor? I don't know. How about building construction? How do you build an apartment building? How's electricity made? If you don't know, you can't fix it. So this is no shaming or blaming. It's not your fault, because the anatomy and physiology beyond high school health class for most of us was getting past the reproductive system. And after we got that, we kind of moved on. But a detailed course on anatomy and physiology was for pre-nursing and pre-med students. I'm hearing that trend is changing in education, and not a minute too soon. But is that crazy? This is the one thing that we have our entire life, and yet comprehension of how it works doesn't garner enough interest to mandate a curriculum for the purpose of teaching the masses how to take care of themselves. Well, we're going to start here with this podcast. The anatomy is the internal and external structures of the body. It's body parts. For example, like the liver. What does it do? Spleen. You have one. Where is it? The appendix, the gallbladder. The physiology is how and why those parts function. So we have the structure and then we have the function. Nutrition is the care and feeding regimen to support the anatomy and physiology. And what have we done? We have relied on family trends and traditions as the primary sources of information for food. And that has led some of us to an extension of family illnesses, maladies, and health issues. It's time we take charge of our own outcome. Food, the Final Frontier, and our content contributors will help with up-to-date information on the food industry's trickery and malice in preparing, packaging, and promoting poison. We want to provide you with the tools you need to make changes and take back your health. Stay tuned for our weekly segment called Food Flash. And in this segment, we will provide information on chemicals and additives and the side effects if you consume them regularly. Alternatives with better benefits will be presented as well. Reminder, this is only for information purposes only. Well, in the meantime, I want you to begin and continue to ask the why questions, such as, is high blood pressure the same thing as hypertension? Is cardiac arrest, heart attack, and heart failure the same thing? If a stroke is a blockage to the brain, how'd that happen? What food or lifestyle could have caused that? And what is insulin resistance? I keep hearing about that. Why are so many people on dialysis machines? Aren't the government agencies supposed to protect us from nefarious manufacturers of food? And why are all those chemicals that I can't pronounce on the ingredients list anyway? I don't even call it an ingredients list anymore. I call it a warning label. But you be the judge. Stay tuned. There's so much more to discuss. Make it a powerful day. Looking forward to presenting you all with the information that we have compiled. Make it a powerful day, and remember to ask why questions before you buy. The shortcuts and easy way out will always have long-term consequences. So be blessed. Do come back. Looking forward to seeing you in the next episode. Peace.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Health News and Views. Join us again next time as we continue to explore the correlation between food, sickness, and health. If you like the show, please subscribe and leave a review for Lynn. She would love to hear your comments. Thanks again for listening, and remember, food is the final frontier.